Commissioner Baloo,
Present.
Commissioner Cotton,
Here.
Commissioner Hesner,
Here.
Commissioner Heidner.
Here.
Commissioner Mulcrone.
Here.
Commissioner Gorig.
Here.
Chairman Morris.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. This evening, we start with consideration of case 18-07, an application filed requesting pursuant to Article 21 of the Village of Vernon Hills Code of Ordinances, approval to amend the plat of subdivision in what is, I think, commonly referred to as the Hawthorne Village King Center. Okay, and someone going to speak on behalf of the petitioner? You're just going to present it for us?
The petitioner can come.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
We've been sitting here for half an hour.
Oh, sorry. Okay, do you want to introduce yourself first?
I'm Scott Schust with JTS Architects. I'm representing the ownership of the shopping center.
Okay, to the extent this is a public hearing, I ask you raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
I do.
Okay, you're on. The main rule is you must speak from a microphone. Otherwise, we don't have many.
I'm not sure I have anything I need to explain to the project. All I know is that the agreements and covenants were sent to the village attorney for final review this past week, and that's what you're here to review.
Okay. We should probably jump in then, and for the benefit of those on the commission as well as anyone else, what is in it is final plat of subdivision, Hawthorne Village Commons. Sheet 1 of 1 is somewhat different now. It is still a sheet 1 of 1, but there is a sheet 2, we'll call it, which includes a terms and conditions of a cross-access and parking agreement to provide for the access and the parking for Lot 2. And the suggestion is that on the plat, there are vehicular and pedestrian ingress-egress easements, which are kind of the lines you see. Those would not be necessary because there would then be this cross-access easement, and those could be removed.
So we're to presume that there's a second sheet on this that describes that?
Yes, that's what we just got it back apparently from the village attorney approving it.
And you drew the short straw of coming out here?
Sorry. But it's a nice day.
Yep.
Okay. That's air conditioned. That's very true.
I think you're coming from Kansas City.
No, I'm actually, my architecture firm's in Elk Grove.
Okay, well then we'll pass, let you sit. No, we won't.
What's being removed?
The one that says vehicular and pedestrian ingress-egress easement, this one with all these lines. Oh, the broad lines. The broad lines.
Fifth one down.
Okay.
Yep. Because it actually doesn't match what we all know is there. There's also a north-south access that goes from 60 up north to the building, which wasn't there either. But with the cross-access, the way we understand it is that would then permit everybody to go over both lots to get to the other lot and to park in either lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It extends across the entire part of Lot 1 and Lot 2.
Okay. So any questions? Okay, since this is a public hearing, anyone from the public would like to speak on this controversial topic? Okay, hearing none, we can close the public hearing. Did we have to provide notices of this one, or did we?
We continued it at our last meeting.
Oh, we did, okay. So the notices, and we've received no additional comments, I assume?
Correct.
Okay, and my understanding is the revised plat and the revised terms and conditions, cross-access and parking agreement have been approved by the owner of Lot 1 and Lot 2?
That's correct. That just came in today.
Okay. Questions? We would have a standing motion to recommend preliminary and final approval to amend the Hawthorne Village Commons plat of subdivision subject to the following condition. 1, it would be subject to the terms and conditions of the cross-access and cross-parking agreement. 2, removal of the ingress-egress easement from the plat. 3, review and approval of the plat by the village engineer and village attorney. 2 is taken care of, and compliance with other ordinances. Any comments or second? Second. Any comments? Would you like to say anything? You're winning right now.
Nope.
Is that Jeff seconding it? Okay.
Okay. All right. Then we need a roll call.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay. Good luck and thank
Thank you.
you. All right. Okay. Next, we have consideration of case 1906, an application filed by Ellen Lay to recommend approval to amend the special use permit approved in ordinance 2008-31 to allow changes to the site plan, landscape plan, and architectural plan for what is commonly referred to as the Goddard School. Okay, who's going to speak for the petitioner for this one?
Good evening, I'm Ellen Lay, I'm the owner of the Goddard School here in Vernon Hills, and Mike Elliott is our architect.
Okay, and therefore, moral support, are they going to speak also?
I think moral support.
That's fine, okay. So if you're going to speak, we ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this Commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
I do.
Yes.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. So it's almost 10 years since we first opened our doors to the public, and over that time, we've maintained a pretty full enrollment in the school, and we've also noticed some changes in what I'd say is state-of-the-art building, which ours was, we believe, 10 years ago. And since that time, over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, a lot more of the Goddard schools have been developed with a multi-purpose room. And our experience over the last 10 years understands why. There are a lot of events that we put on for the families. There's an opportunity if the weather is bad. We've found not only cold weather, but the hot weather keeps us inside as well. So the multi-purpose room is really driving this project, and the multi-purpose room allows us to have large motor activities throughout the day for all of the children in the classrooms. We're looking to add 2 classrooms, and the capacity is going from 139 students on any one given day to 168, and those 2 new classrooms will afford us that. We're converting one of the classrooms from a preschool classroom of 20 students to 8 infants, because we've also noticed we're turning away a lot of infants, and the demand is pretty high. So that's where we stand today. We're looking for your approval to start this project. Our families are looking forward to having something a little bit more for their children as well.
Okay,
We've prepared a few graphics that illustrate as far as a site, just for familiarity, as far as where the proposed building expansion would be. And the graphic on the screen right now would be in the orange area to the rear of the school. Here's some 3D images of the proposed expansion. We're utilizing the existing architecture of the building as far as the materials, as far as the brick and the stone, as well as the pitched roofs with asphalt shingles. So ideally, the expansion will just blend with the existing structure. I feel fortunate that I've actually did the original building with Ellen and came in front of this very group, or with some different folks back then, so success, and come back with a current project. So, and lastly, here's a floor plan that shows the expansion from the, we're really just extending one of the corridors out with the 2 classrooms that Ellen mentioned, as well as in the multi-purpose room. And these areas would then open onto the green space as far as the other play areas.
okay. Anything else?
That is all with regard to the building.
The building, yes.
Okay. Any questions,
So
anyone?
what was in the area where you're building?
A playground.
And you're downsizing that?
We're shifting the preschool playground, which is where the new construction would be, and if you can see along the southern side of the school, the younger children would then shift their playground space into you can see sidewalks and so forth. That's where their playground,
Yeah.
their play area would
I'm running
be.
the arrow across here, so we're using this green space here. Will now be used for more play space, as well as reconfiguring this back area here, taking some of the existing structures and moving that over.
So they're currently separated? There's
They're
2
currently
Yeah,
separated.
would they be separated now?
Yes. There's a shorter gate just off the back, the southwest corner of the building. Children
would
Two
stay
and
on
under.
the side of the primary building. And the
Correct.
new addition would be where the two play areas would be.
Where the one play area.
One play area.
Yes, right.
I was gonna say, because it kind of shows two here in this reconfigured playground space, but there's really only room for one.
Right, correct.
Okay.
The rendering showing the fence being moved beyond your property line to the other side of the sidewalk. So how are you creating a play space on that facade?
So on, where the addition is, the south of that is the playground for 3 to 5-year-olds. And then the south side of the school, there is a fence that's already existing, so I don't know where where you've seen that it's been moved.
The yellow line doesn't exactly represent the exact property line, it's just highlighting that areas.
Okay, but on the plans, the property line cuts through that sidewalk and the metal fence is beyond that.
Oh, okay, so that goes back to our original construction, and the developer, we have an easement
Okay.
to go beyond that. And that was driven by the fire department. We had to be a certain distance away from the building for the sidewalk for the safety of the children.
But
So,
it does say found 1-inch iron pipe, which designates a corner of a surveyed property. So that surveyed line runs right through that side lot, that side area of your building. Is it, I mean,
Oh,
that's what you're talking
so-
about, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it's just, it looks like your playground goes over your property.
it does, and that's because of the easement that we have with the developer. So we have, I don't have the documents, but it has been about 11
They're allowing you
years.
to use it.
We are, yes.
Okay, they're allowing them to use it,
Yeah.
and they allowed you to build that black fence on their property.
Exactly.
And
So you're just repurposing the use of what
it's
you already
marsh
have.
over there anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And the green space that's south of the playground, of the building, that's existing already, it's there. So that's what, the children play there now as well.
Anyone
Just
else?
curious, how big is your waiting list? I know you have a waiting list.
We,
There is demand.
There's demand, there's definitely demand. Right now, we probably have, it's more in the younger ages. For the infants, we probably have 3 on the wait list. And in the 2s, right now, we don't have a wait list for the 2s. We're going into the new school year, and that's when it usually fills back up.
Just curious.
When we started the project, we had wait lists in all of the classrooms. But we have to refill, we have 40 students stepping out and going on to kindergarten, and then we transition the children into the older grades.
Thank you.
Why March for your parking, collect your data?
We knew that this would be important, and so typically between January and May is our we're at capacity, and we thought that would really reflect how
So
the
it was
parking's
strategic.
working. Yeah.
Your parking request, as compared to what would be required under the PUD, is substantially less. One thing we talked about beforehand, do you have any type of parking agreement or easement to allow parking on, let's say, what used to be the bank, which I guess is still a bank building, the bank lot if you need it?
We don't have permission from I don't know if it would be the developer at this point or the bank. It's changed hands a couple of
Right.
times. Some of the teachers will park over there, they like the shade. But Chili's across the street, they utilize our parking. They've asked us, early on, they've asked for, if they had overflow, could they park there? And we said yes. And we have family events, if there is an opportunity so typically we'll do a family event from 5 to 7. And if we have too many families parking, Chili's has always said, we just park along the southern edge of their parking. And it happens like three times a year if it does.
Do you have an agreement to do that, though, at all?
I have a letter from them. Nothing that's, we don't need it during the day, during the
Right.
school day, but for those evenings.
And there's no parking on Aspen Point, I understand, is that correct?
No one parks there, but you have to get around the curve, and then you can park there. But we don't usually park there.
Way down here, by the,
Yeah, they can park here.
okay. In this informal agreement with Chili's, and I don't even know, does Chili's own that lot? I don't even know.
I believe it's a long-term land lease with the developer. I don't think they own the lot.
Is it the same developer for both?
I don't know, is it?
Yeah, it's, the developer is still the Taxman
It's still
Corporation.
Taxman?
Yeah.
For it? Is there any, this is going to sound like a very naive question, is there any reason why that couldn't be more formalized to, for lack of a better way, to protect you, to give you the parking?
I don't know how the franchise, I don't know if Chili's is a franchise or a corporation run.
It just changed from franchise to corporation.
They did, okay. So it would probably be something more formal that they'd have to go to their home office for, I would imagine. I've had conversations with the bank, with Cy Taxman, if that was necessary.
It would be with us, Taxman.
Maybe with Taxman. Okay. And Taxman still owns the bank property? I'm
He
assuming?
does.
I just received some information that the letter agreement is with the regional manager for Chili's, as far as, so with the development company and everything else. So there is a letter agreement out there that could be produced if,
Okay. It would obviously be really nice if you could just simply park on, overflow on the bank property, because that's much more convenient for you.
Oh, to park there, it absolutely is.
That may be an opportunity when there's a new tenant there or somebody moves in there, you could get a cross parking agreement with them.
Correct.
This is almost like Uncle Julio's and Westfield, when Westfield was there. And they were adamant saying, you cannot park in our parking lot.
Right.
And we knew that they were never going to fit all those cars in the Uncle Julio's parking lot.
Okay, yeah.
So from a, this, once again, is going to sound awfully simplistic. From a confidence standpoint, okay, you're using some overflow parking in the Chili's lot on the south side.
Right.
When you quote-unquote become 20% larger, are you still going to be able to be accommodated?
I believe we will, yes. We have, so 20% capacity, increasing capacity by 20%. At least a third of those are families with another child, so that number of that number changing. I believe we can. The front of our parking lot sits empty most of the day. There may be, I think, an 8:30. Our peak would be 8:30 and probably 5. I don't remember what that timing was. And even then, because we're staggered drop-off and pickup times, our teachers are also staggered on their start times and end times. So it's worked really well. Over the last 10 years, I think the only problem we ever had was someone not looking over their shoulder to see if someone's behind them, but we haven't had any problems with families not having a place to pull in, go inside and drop their child off.
So when they're typically doing that, they're not just pulling up in the staging area, they're literally parking and then walking in with their children?
Exactly, they're required to do that.
That makes me feel a lot better, because I was looking at these times from 7:50 to 8:10, and there's 11 cars, 13 cars, and it's got to take more than 3 or 4 minutes to walk a child into the facility and drop them off and have a short conversation with someone
Right.
and then leave. So I was wondering how that whole staging thing was going to work, but if they're parking in there, that works so much better.
Yes, and Drop-off in the morning is a much quicker process, 3 to 5 minutes. It's amazing how quickly they get in there because they need to get out on the road. Coming in the evening, they may stay a little bit longer. And that's when they have the conversations with other parents or the teachers. But it's still the flow, it's amazing how it works.
Yeah, fortunately, it's not like a elementary school where everyone's dropping off at the exact same time. So I think the stagger, as Ellen was describing, really works there. And I've been involved with about 8 different Goddard schools across Chicagoland area, so that's always kind of the cycle that they work with.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, notice was provided on this,
Yes, sir.
and do we receive any comments from anyone,
We did not.
even the taxman group?
Nothing from the taxman group.
Okay. Okay. To the extent that this is a public hearing, we need to ask whether anyone from the public, which would be the two of you, would like to add anything other than moral support. This is your chance to be on TV. All right. Hearing none, we can close the public hearing portion. Any other questions of petitioners? Oh, that's correct. That was my next little note. See, I actually had that. We also have received your section 18.3 comments.
Yes.
And those are part of the record in terms of what is required under the zoning ordinance. We have that as well. Any questions on that from anyone? Okay, anything else? As you probably have figured out, or you may recall, we have a standing motion to recommend approval. So our first motion would be a motion to recommend approval of an amendment to the amended and restated development agreement approved as ordinance 2005-25 and 2005-22 to allow for revisions to the approved plans allowing an addition to a building including a parking variance for property commonly known as the Goddard School, subject to the conditions contained herein. Our staff report has 6 conditions. I would suggest that we may want to put a 7th condition on it, that the petitioner with the village staff investigate the possibility of a more formalized parking agreement or cross easement with either the property to the north or with the Chili's property to the east. So with that, we need a second.
Second.
Any discussion with respect to that motion?
You're not adding any parking to existing, right?
We have 1 parking spot. That's all that we really have room for.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah. Are you planning on taking ownership of that area that is the easement along that south property line?
I haven't thought about it. It's an agreement that does not have an end date. It's as long as we occupy the school as we know it, the Goddard School, that there's nothing that ends it. Is there a concern? Do you mind if I ask what your
What my concern would be? Well, I like things buttoned down. I like things, when you're occupying a site, I feel that you should either own that site or lease that site or have something involved with the full perimeter of what you're
Right.
occupying. And it's always kind of funny with easements, if something should happen. So I tend to look at things from more of a legal perspective. So, you have an athletic child that climbs the fence and something happens on the other side of that fence, well, that's theirs. And there could be legal activity involving them with that I don't think that they would want.
Right.
So in that, you would have full control of the whole thing, you would move your fence out or whatever, or the fence is already out there, so.
Right.
So I guess that doesn't apply there. I guess in that instance, it doesn't apply. But maybe it does, because it's still their property, even though you're occupying it. So, I don't know, it's quirky. So, I guess I'm serving that up for just a short conversation, Hal.
I mean, certainly, if it's not an easement, but it's ownership, you have full control. So you're not subject to anything else. And there are oddities that accompany easements in terms of what you can and can't do and how you can and cannot, deal with maintenance, et cetera. So, I mean, I agree with the comment that to the extent that if you could button it up and have the full control, it's probably better,
Right.
for you. Is it insurmountable? I mean, it's a risk that you can choose to take, and that's a business decision. The question I would have, since we're asking questions, which is probably more of a selfish question from the village perspective, have you thought, based upon your expansion plans, of basically taking over the building to the north?
Yes, that was our intention, and we had approval by the village the initial, we introduced it to the village. And it was, we could not come to I could come to an agreement. It just didn't work out with the developer, the owner of the property.
That's fair enough.
Okay.
Which is a
Yeah.
shame, because that would be perfect.
Perfect.
For
Yeah,
you
it-
and the village.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was our initial intent. And I think also with the bank, it was American Chartered, then MB, and then I think once the news was out about it becoming a Fifth Third, and I think that it just kind of fell apart. So we felt this was our best option. Like you said, we get to control it, which is nice. We already own the land, so we have much more control on what we do on that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so we need a roll call on the motion to recommend approval of the amendment to the amended restated development agreement with the 7 conditions discussed.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner?
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes. Okay, next we have a motion to recommend approval to amend ordinance 2008-03, granting revisions to a special use permit for a daycare facility on the legally described property, subject to the same 7 conditions previously discussed. We need a second for that. Any discussion? Okay, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes. Next, we have a motion to recommend approval of final site and landscaping plans and building elevations for the legally described property, subject to the 7 conditions previously discussed. Need a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Just brief discussion. In this particular submittal, there really wasn't a site plan, at least not an architectural site plan. There really wasn't
Yeah.
a landscape plan. There wasn't anything for us to necessarily vote on formally, finally, for final site and landscape plan. That being said, the landscaping is not being changed. The engineer's site plan, which really is still the engineer's site plan, and those are approvable, within the realm of our jurisdiction here. So although it appeared to me that it's not quite a complete submittal for this as what we're used to, I guess it's still applicable, and I just thought something should be said to that.
Are there any trees on the western edge that would have to be removed for the building?
Another mic?
No, it's currently just the open green space behind the building.
Okay. It's just from the previous landscape plan, they do show
There's this.
some larger trees on the western edge.
I think those, as they go up the hill, I believe those are
Yeah.
up on the slope, I believe.
Yeah, so we're staying within the fence. Yeah, they're still there. They exist. One died probably 5 years ago, and the others have grown up so much, but they're still there.
Okay.
Point over here.
Anybody else?
Okay.
There's no landscaping changes.
Exactly.
Right.
I could clarify the landscape
Sure,
if
go
you
ahead.
want me to. The landscaping plan, what I included in your packet was a copy of the landscaping plan from when the building was originally approved. Because after I did the public notice and then got the details of a grading plan, I realized they're putting the addition only where there's existing turf. But for clarification, I included the existing landscape plan and noted that we would make sure that any damaged landscaping would be, they'd have to replace any damaged land and restored, thank you. But yeah, the reality is with landscaping, they're really just putting the addition where the turf is, and that's the extent of the change.
Is the current landscaping that is there in the real world substantially similar or substantially compliant with the landscape plan?
It is. I went and looked at it.
Did you? Okay.
And then just as a note, just as part of our common practice for permitting, what the village's engineering technician and landscape technician will do would walk the site to identify those deficiencies and then make it a condition of approval of the permit to replace the dead tree or dead bush or whatever it is that would need to be restored.
Okay. All right.
One last comment.
Yep, go.
I would really consider, looking into that easement.
Yeah.
And what it really means to you as a business
Sure.
moving forward with maybe just spend a little time with your attorney and say, what is your exposure with a child, getting injured in that area of your site? And what is that exposure to the entity that you have an agreement with?
Okay.
Just to button things up a little bit.
Sure. That's an easy one.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we need a roll call on the motion to recommend approval of the final site and landscaping plans and building elevations.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay. I think that's all we have on our plate for this case.
Correct.
Thank
Right,
you and
thank
good
you
luck.
very much.
Okay. Any development review we need to think about?
The only thing that's, we're into the second round of technical review for Phase 1. I hate to call it Phase 1 because I don't know how many phases there's going to be to the Hawthorne Mall redevelopment, but we'll call it the 3-lot subdivision phase that's along Milwaukee Avenue. They would create 3 lots of record, and they evidently have some restaurants lined up for that. So I think we'll have that second round completed within the next 10 days or so, and I anticipate that we'll be prepared to let them make application for a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So that'll be just for the 3-lot subdivision. The way it seems to be queuing up is, I think the next step was going to be the redevelopment of the Carson's site. They're confident that they have potential store lined up. They won't tell us who it is, but it's a specialty grocery store, one that we don't have in this area. And it's also another store that's considered a junior anchor. They sell alcohol, wine, and spirits and such. And but they haven't named the name, but I think any one of us might guess, but that's not official. So we do see that as being the next step. I don't have a good idea as far as when we'll begin seeing stuff for the redevelopment of the Sears portion of it.
So those 3 lots you discussed, that's just parking lot area right now?
Yeah, it was once serving the Sears parking lot. It's the part where the weeds are growing through. I guess it's just east of, the part that's east of Ring Road.
Ring Road?
Okay.
And there'd be an adjustment to Ring Road as well,
The Carson's furniture building, the Carson's of the mall.
of the mall.
Are they going to tear it down and replace?
They would tear it down completely and replace.
Cut
The-
it out with a knife.
Yeah, very precision demolition. But they would take that down. There would be an outdoor corridor, for lack of a better term. It would create a bigger box for the specialty grocer on one side, and a smaller box for the junior anchor on the other side. And then that outdoor corridor would lead to the main door into the mall. There's some very conceptual drawings on our website if you wanted to take a look at it. Very conceptual. But we do see that as having more momentum than the Sears portion. So I think that'll be, after the 3-lot subdivision, I think that'll be the next one you guys see.
So did you give us a timeline on that 3-lot subdivision?
They're in,
Second round.
Second round, we'll have that completed in 10 days, roughly. And then we'll tell them, okay, you can make the application to the Planning and Zoning Commission. At least I anticipate we'll be able to do that. I don't see any problems that'll be pending. And then it's just a matter of how long it takes them to make that application. So
Who painted the Sears and why?
there was 3 different artists that are out there, and the intent, and if you notice, they're doing a number of things on this on the Hawthorne Mall property. They call it Hawthorne 2.0, and it's their way of trying to demonstrate that we're not going away, we're not dying. We're a mall that has plans for the future, and we intend to be here for a long time. And that artistry work is part of what they're trying to project as a positive image with that.
How's this deal going on over here?
Which deal? Oh, well, we're waiting for, they've filled it up with as much stone as the contract allowed, and the delay has been getting clay. And actually, we finally found some good clay from the District 73 construction. And we anticipate that coming in the next day or two. Weather has been an issue, and although the contractor hasn't said anything, I think proximity of the site where they can get the clay is an issue. I mean, they were waiting for a site that was closer so they could do it at less cost, you know. So we know that's part of it, even though they didn't admit to it. But weather was earlier on part of the issue.
Oh, yeah.
But we have now identified enough clay for
Is
the.
it going to be green space?
Yep. Yep. So it's, hopefully it'll be done in the next, I mean, at this point, you know, the real issue is, all right, so they put a seed blanket down, and I'm not sure how we're gonna sustain growth, but it should be done in the next 30 days or so. I think it's a pretty good estimate.
Is there a new owner to the mobile station? I see it's a Marathon. Is it a new physical owner, or did they just change branding?
New owner, new brand. It's gonna be a marathon.
So is the new owner going to actually do something with the site?
Yeah, we're working on that right now.
Straighten the pumps and have them actually work?
Yeah, we're
Yeah, it
we're
was-
working
it
with
was
them on
a
that right
really
now.
bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad they have a new owner and they're gonna do something with it, because it was bad.
What's going on Fridays?
That's gonna be at Jameson's Steakhouse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it was on fire the other day.
It was on. It was.
Yeah, it was burning. They had the fire engines over there and everything.
Oh, really? I wasn't notified of it. There must not have been any kind of
Yes,
serious
no, there was
damage.
a little smoke coming out the front door.
They were grilling
Oh,
a steak.
okay.
They had a little
Maybe they were
little
grilling.
construction issue,
Yeah.
and the fire.
Yeah, I get
department had to
calls.
show up.
If it's anything, the inspectors get a call, or if it's real bad, I'll get a call. Even if it's 3 in the morning, I'll get a call.
I
But
was-
so it must not have been that bad.
Middle of the day, but I was like, oh, look at they're running in there in the lap. They had the helmets on.
It's gonna be the same,
Same footprint. They're just doing a facade renovation, so it just needed to go straight to the village board because of that, and the board approved that. We're waiting for them to make the application for a permit. Complete renovation of the inside.
Good.
Complete facade renovation. There'll be a lot of stone, brick. Some drivette will remain, but overall, I think it's going to be I think it'll be a nice looking building.
Any movement on the old Bally's building or next to McAllister's?
Nothing, and it's owned by Centennial, previously by Westfield, so no movement on
Oh,
that.
really?
McAllister's is new, so I mean, what's going on with McAllister? No, nothing.
Like, yeah, the space next to it, that they have
Nothing.
construction stuff?
Yeah, no, he's nothing. I think the space is too small when you think about needing washroom facilities in there. And if you think something like a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, it's not gonna, because they have seating, so they need as you guys know, a washroom for male and female. And then there's no room left for seating. I always thought maybe a delivery, something like a Domino's where you're just delivering, and so you can have one washroom, you don't need seating, but he's never been able to find a tenant.
Yeah, that's a tough space
Yeah.
to move.
Any more restaurants for Melody Farm?
Roasters is a coffee shop that's going to be next door to Next Door American Eatery.
Oh.
And gosh, there's one more.
Is that what the new white box is, American Eatery?
Yes, that's the G. You know, if you're going into the access road off of Milwaukee, it's the one to the right, adjacent to
It's the new one that's not quite done yet.
the
The one that's just
You
finishing
know,
up
it's already
now?
open.
American Eatery is open. But
What-
where Roasters is going,
What
you
is the
mean?
one that's just completing now?
In which building?
It's just, it's the first building north of Lazy Dog, or south of Lazy Dog.
That's City Works. There's one in Schaumburg. It's a bar restaurant kind of thing. And I think they're going to beat the record of used Mandarin for how long it can take to complete a construction site. It's going to be close, but but anyways, that's what that's going to be as a City Works.
And where are those people gonna park?
There's
At the mall.
there's a
They're gonna go across, they're gonna come
Right, they're
across
across-
Milwaukee,
right.
aren't they?
there's a I mean there's a parking access agreement across the entire mall. But yes, there's parking is something that's going to be interesting moving forward as they fill that site. Now, a couple of thoughts, and I've been in conversation with Matt Hendy about this. Is there's a lot of parking behind the B building, the long building with Nordstrom's Rack and REI. That could be used by employees, and if they to the east, yeah. And then there's also additional parking between Milwaukee Avenue and the Outlet buildings there too. Those should be, they need to organize so they can have employees park in those locations. I think the biggest issue with the site, I mean, looking back now, is that there's a number of parking spaces north of Lazy Dog. Okay, when you're out on the site, you really don't even see them now that Lazy Dog is constructed, but of course they're included in the parking calculations demonstrating compliance with the Greg's Landing PUD that applied to that property. But, you know, is someone going to see it? No, I can go over there and park. In fact, if anything, they look like they belong to the residential building.
The people get
So-
used to it. The thing was you had to align the intersection.
Yeah, no, and that's, you're right. But the way to, and I agree, and I'm not sure what else we could have done. I mean, because no building could fit there. It's not really, but
The other thing
that could be the valet parking lot, and that's what we've talked about with Matt, is they need to, and I've seen this work effectively in Oak Brook Mall, where they have a row of restaurants, and the parking there is so tight. You know, if you're going to go to one of those restaurants, you're going to have your car valeted for $8. You're going to pay an extra $8 because it's not worth walking that far. And so, as they get more occupancies, that they're probably going to go in that direction where they'll coordinate with all the different restaurant vendors and have a single or maybe two valet locations where when you go to the restaurants, you have your car valet parked. They run it over to the lot north of Lazy Dog or even to the other lots behind the buildings, and that could be a solution. But yeah, it'll be interesting moving forward. It certainly had my attention. I mean, normally we have our regulations, and as you guys know, that's the Greg's Landing PUD is what applied to this site, and that's combined with what the vendors are telling the developer they need. You know, Whole Foods is saying we need this many spots. REI is saying that. Usually between those two. Between both of those, we end up with parking that's appropriate. If we do it wrong, I've seen sometimes we have too much parking. In this case, it's concerning, but we'll see how it plays out once all the occupancies are completed. But yeah, parking is a concern.
What about the corner of Deer Path and 60? PNC, the old PNC Bank property.
There's a high-end nursery school that is considering going there.
Like Montessori?
Well, the name is eluding me right now. We just had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago, and that's it. But I think they're going to come forward with a concept presentation to the village board.
So
it's not
they're-
Montessori, but they do stuff like they start teaching different languages, and it's not an inexpensive option for childcare. So they're hitting a market that they believe is lacking in Vernon Hills, a higher-end market for daycare facilities. They are serious and are going to come forward. We don't have any site plans. We don't have anything so far to talk about.
Wow, they got a lot of competition.
Yeah, there's and we made that aware, and that might be a concern to the boards and the commissions involved. There's the Park District one. There's the Goddard School. Park District is in the former YMCA. The Goddard School. There's one behind where Superior Ambulance is.
There's
Yeah.
the preschool over by, just that would be down the street from this, across from the Alzheimer's facility, Christ Lutheran Preschool.
Yes, correct.
Kindergarten.
Yep. There's a Montessori school
Yeah,
in
KinderCare
the
right-
synagogue.
It's
Just-
right, it's right there.
Kindergarten's right there.
Kindercare,
And
yeah.
then there's synagogue
Yeah.
on
So-
Lakeview.
But we'll see. I mean, they really believe they're hitting a different market and one that the Vernon Hills market is demanding. So there was, at one point, there was a Raising Cane that was interested. But the board wasn't interested in a fast casual for that particular location, especially something with a drive-through. So something short of that starts limiting the options, but, and I think that location, I mean, as you guys know, the farther away you get from Milwaukee and Town Line Road, the smaller number of people that are looking for that location, yeah.
How's the progress at the high school going?
They're doing all right. We don't issue the building permit, so I don't have guys out there inspecting it. And in all honesty, I haven't driven by it in probably 3 or 4 weeks, so I really can't give you an accurate answer on that. I mean, well, the village's authority is in just the site engineering and landscaping because we're the authority that enforces the stormwater management, countywide
But
stormwater, yeah.
They
SMC.
administer their own construction. and-
Yep.
They can
It's-
do whatever they want.
It's the Illinois State Board of Education issues the permits, and they do their inspections. They're on a different set of codes, and they do have certain regulations that are different than what we have. They're on the 15, we're on the 18. They have certain requirements relative to, they have to have like a storm enclosure kind of built within the structure of the building. There's different requirements like that I know just very vaguely just from being around it, but they typically use third-party inspectors. And I think they're going to end up using BNF, which is a third-party inspector that's been around for a long time. So if they do that, then I think that's good.
With legalization of recreational marijuana in January, is the village going to revisit the zoning that we did for medical marijuana, I think they did?
Yes. And the first step, what the new regulations allow is for the board, is for municipalities to opt in or opt out of allowing it. So the first thing is what we'll do is we'll pose that question to the board. And it'll be the police chief that's going to lead that charge because he would be the appropriate individual in terms of what impact the community would have in terms of allowing it versus not allowing it. If the board determines that they want to allow it, then at least preliminarily, my understanding of the state regulations is in terms of how they would license it, is they would first start by only allowing those establishments that currently hold a medical
Right.
license to also be able to sell recreational marijuana. They would then, and that's a maximum of 2 per senatorial district. So there's 60 districts right now. So there's theoretically 120 medical dispensaries. They would then monitor demand and issue additional licenses as needed.
I was just curious.
And then if
Is there any tax benefit to having it in the village?
just the actual retail sale, like any other sale that would happen in the village.
Oh, they would, sales tax.
Right.
Okay, I'm just curious. It's better than a bank.
Well,
Oh,
I'm curious.
It's better than a mattress store.
You know, it's still not a federal thing. So the states, they function autonomously to a degree, but individual communities within the state can also function autonomously.
Yep, that's correct. So that'll be step one, is posing that question to the village board.
The autonomy is in actually selling it, and that's where it ends. Meaning, as a resident of Illinois, living in a community, if you wanted to use it, you can do it, regardless of the community rules.
Oh, yeah, my understanding is that's correct. The question is, would we allow recreational dispensaries?
Right.
And we could choose to allow them or
Yes,
not
that's
to.
right, that's what-
But it's not a question of whether or not you can smoke recreational marijuana within the village. Effective January 1, that's, yeah, the answer
No,
is,
but it's severely restricted where under the statute?
yeah, yes, it is.
You can't do it in parks, you can't do it in public, all those things, right?
Right. I think you just have to hide away in your basement and do it. you know?
Basically, yes.
I have a question on, we've noticed that there have been a number of handicap accessible parking spaces that seem to have been changed into either plug-in stations or just removed in different areas of the village. And we're wondering how they're doing that when they're not replacing it, elsewhere in the shopping centers.
Yeah, well, I know they've done it at the mall. Are you talking about any?
Well, I know that by Dunkin' Donuts, they removed the two handicap accessible spaces along Milwaukee. Now, there's one all the way on the other side, but not by Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, if there's specific sites, we can check that out. And we've issued permits to the mall for 2 locations. One's by the theater, one is by the northern entrance, and there's a couple of recharging stations there, and they did relocate accessible spaces. But if there's other locations where they've done that and you think you're concerned, just let me know where they are and we can check it out for you.
Okay. I mean, some have just been removed and restriped as regular parking places.
Yeah, we can look at that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
If you have an electric car, the electric handles in front of Dave & Buster's are free. Pull right in, charge it up.
Nice.
No credit card required. That's just, I found that odd because I know in a lot of places they're credit card based, but those were free. I was like, wow, how generous.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Okay.
Then we have to approve the minutes of the May 1st, 2018 meeting. Okay, Jim?
I have one change on page 2. Looks like there was a vote just above,
Oh,
and it says 6-0, yet the commentary on the below says 5-0.
Yeah, you know what okay, thank you.
And then,
somebody didn't count.
Yeah, no, I
then-
actually have proofread it and made
Okay.
that change.
and then you mentioned when we were talking about the Panda Express that we deferred that, and I don't see that in the minutes anywhere.
5? How did we vote on 5?
I'm certain we did. I could, because there was I'll, thank you.
You see
We'll,
in the commentary that Cal is talking about the fact that there wasn't a new plot, or subdivision. But I don't see where it's actually said that we deferred it.
okay, I'm certain that we did, because I remember the discussion, because at first I thought
We talked about it.
at first I thought we could approve it, and then there were certain questions that came up relative to one plan showed a property line in one location, another plan showed it at another, and then I said, okay, we should just continue that matter.
All we said is that they would pull the vote on the plan and bring it back at a later date. So that really, it's,
No, page-
that's an excellent question. This page. The one right above A? I'll keep going back. Okay. Is that? Yeah. So I guess the question is, did we vote on it?
We didn't vote, there's no vote on it.
There's no vote on it.
Thank our fellow commissioner.
And we didn't continue the public hearing? Is that going to provide, that's going to be a technical problem, but is it going to be a realistic problem for them?
No.
Okay. Because it's probably technically an issue, if someone was going to contest it.
Correct. I don't have to hold up their permits for this either. I mean, you know, so what I could do is I could just wait for the next, we haven't adjourned this meeting either. Well, I could wait for the next meeting. I'll publish a new public notice. I mean, for the sake of Panda Express, let's make sure we have everything done correctly.
Okay.
And it's probably being overly safe, but it's probably the right thing to do. And I'll do a public notice, you know, whenever we have our next meeting, and then they don't need to come here, I would suggest. And then we'll just do it all over again.
Defer that part here now until the next meeting too, right?
No,
Well,
we wouldn't be continuing a public hearing with notice. Okay, got
It was stated that it would be put off to the next meeting,
it. Right.
but there wasn't a motion to, an official motion to continue it and then a roll call.
Right.
So that's the technicality.
Yeah. So why don't we just do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but, yeah, okay.
All right, let's do that. Okay. Otherwise, we have a motion to recommend approval with those changes to the May 1st meeting. We need a second?
Second.
All in, uh-huh.
I wasn't at the meeting, but I did read the minutes, and there were a number of typos. I'm just gonna hand them in. I don't
Okay.
want to go through them all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's do that. All right, then we can do this by acclamation. All in favor with the typos corrected?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. that's
Abstain?
Okay, and then if we have nothing else, we've motioned to adjourn. Need a second?
Second.
Anyone going to fight that one? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Good night.